So you came over and you went to school, and your kind of career path took a different take. And so I always like asking the pastors that come on that Spurgeon tells us that if any of you want to take up preaching, that you should kind of look inward at yourself and imagine yourself doing anything else other than preaching, and if you can, do that. So what made you go from urban and regional planning to a doctorate in Old Testament theology?
Actually, so I became a believer when I was 13 in Romania. I came here in January of 86. I was 15 and a half. And that spring, I turned 16. Well, a guy from Romania, Joseph Tson, who was educated at Oxford, he came to our church in LA, Romanian Baptist Church in Bellflower, California. And he said, communism in Romania will fall. Are you going to be ready to go back and help your country rebuild physically and spiritually? And that's when I felt the call to the ministry. So I always thought I was going to go back to Romania and teach. I thought that was my calling since I was 16. So when I went to college, I wanted to do something different than Bible, because I knew I was going to go to seminary and then to get a PhD, because back at the time, and it's still true today, you can't teach in Romania without a PhD. And in the seminary level. And so initially I wanted to do architecture, because I thought, okay, I need to help them rebuild physically, not just spiritually. By the way, communism in Romania fell 3 years later. So this guy was a real prophet, because he actually gave historical evidences from the time when that happened to Romania before, when we had some Romanians who went to France and got educated and then returned to Romania and rebuilt the country culturally. So he said the same thing will happen now. And again, that's when I felt a call to the ministry. So when I transferred from Long Beach City College to Cal Poly Pomona, there was a one-year waiting list for architecture, and I didn't want to wait. So I went into urban planning, because he was still in the College of Environmental Design. So I did that. I studied, my thesis was transportation planning, and my thesis was that the electric car will never make it. So I guess I was wrong.
You still have hope. Elon's not to the moon yet.
Well, I had reason. Again, I researched. At the time, they said the oil companies were too strong to allow it to happen. And back then, to manufacture a battery created more pollution than it saved pollution. So maybe things have changed. But anyway, after I did that, I went to seminary. And then when I went to seminary, I took Greek and Hebrew at the same time. Nobody told me I'm not supposed to do that. So I said, if I like Greek better, I'm going to teach New Testament. If I like Hebrew better, I'm going to teach Old Testament. So I liked Hebrew better, so I decided to go into Old Testament. And by the way, my wife and I kept interviewing with mission agencies after I started teaching at Beeson Divinity School in Birmingham, Alabama. But doors kept closing. Different agencies said, yeah, we're not sending anybody for theological education. You can go if you want to be a church planter, or, well, that was not my calling. My calling was, I always thought that my calling was to teach. So as doors closed, God opened the door for me to come to Grace, and I've been teaching Hebrew and Old Testament and Bible courses in general since 2005. So this is my 16th year teaching both undergrad and seminary level courses.
You kind of went from carpenter to prophet.
Yeah.
Do you find parallels then between your native language and Hebrew at all? I'm not sure the derivation of Romanian.
Yeah, I wish. No.
It makes it a lot easier.
Romanian is a Latin language.
Okay.
It's actually 66% Latin. They say it's more Latin than even Italian. So, along with French, Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, it's one of the Romance languages. So mostly it's Latin. We have some Germanic and some Slavic influence in the language. But one good thing that happened in an educational system in Romania is that in second grade in Romania, they would give you a foreign language. So I started learning French in second grade. In fifth grade, they would give you a second foreign language. Unfortunately, they didn't let me choose, so they gave me Russian. And then in eighth grade, everybody learns Latin. So that was a nice thing about the educational system. When I came here and I started learning English before we left Romania with a lady from church. He would teach us English. We didn't know it back then, but it was British English. We learned, I shall, you will, he, she, it will, we shall. Well, nobody speaks like that here. We had
lifts and bobbies and all that.
We had the foundation though, the grammar we got it right, so at least we knew grammar, and it was fairly easy to learn. Once you learn a foreign language, the others come a little easier. So then in seminary, I had to learn German, which I think was the hardest language in the world, and then Greek and Hebrew. But I think Greek and Hebrew were easy compared to German. But Hebrew is technically a very simple language. When we study Hebrew, first year Hebrew, you learn maybe 400 words. It's a very simple language. It's not as complex as Greek, for example.
Interesting.